Line over there, I can tell you the best ice cream is Split is here, and there's never a line. I think it's the only garden inside the palace. Here, 10 years back, it used to be an old staircase. So now with rust and this kind of stuff, so I was really not comfortable coming up here. Morning everyone. This morning I'm gonna take you on a small tour through the palace in Split. Of course, I'm not an archaeologist and I'm also not a historian, so lots of that part I'm gonna leave out. There's other people in Split who are much better at that part. I would do basically the tour like I usually do it for my family and friends who comes down here and have questions about the palace. Good, let's get started. So the first thing you need to know, if you look over at the building sites here, lots of people ask me, where is the palace? Because it doesn't actually look like a palace. I think maybe people have an idea it's going to be something with big towers, like castles or something like that. But actually, that's not how the palace in Split looks like. If you follow me here, I'm going to show you actually how it looked like when it was built. So as you see here, this is a drawing or a picture of how the finished palace look like. I can see it's more constructed like a fortress, which was typical by the Romans at that time. It was built around year 300 AD. So the palace was built as a retirement residency for the Roman Emperor Diocletian, who was actually one of the only Roman emperors who retired from being a Roman emperor. Most of them somehow, got killed or whatever happened to them, but he actually retired. So he commissioned the building of the palace, and about 10 years later, the palace was ready for him to move in, although there was still construction work going on. But as I said, today I'm going to take you on a tour covering this area. Not much is going to look like it did that time, because of course since then there has been lots of rulers of Split. There's been the Slavs, there's been the Venetians, and everybody has been reconstructing and taking parts of the palace and simply making other stuffs out of it. So now you could say the whole palace area, except for a few things, is actually a medieval town. And that's also why on this side there's no clear place where you would actually see any walls. On the other side, the northern and the eastern side, you will be able to see it. And as you can notice down here from the front side, which is actually, we are standing somewhere here now, it was water at that time. Of course, all of that is not the case today, but we can still enter down at the bottom for the basement, so that's where we're going to start. Good, follow me. So when you're in Split, one good place to go and have a look at before you actually enter the palace is this sculpture which is made over here, so we're just going to go to it. A bronze sculpture which covers not only the palace area is basically here. You see the walls, the towers, and then basically the last line here is missing because everything flows into the medieval town. So everything kind of feels the same when you walk inside. It's basically just an old town, but there's actually a distinct crossing point, which I would also show you. At that point you are going to enter into what used to be the old palace. Maybe one thing to mention also, the size of it was about a bit more than 200 meters long and a little less than 200 meters wide. So in total the area covered by the palace was about 10 acres or 40,000 square meters. So for a retirement residency, pretty nice place. Yeah. Good, let's go to the basement. So entering the basements you can do from this side or from the other side where we're going to come out. Walking through the basement, the main part is basically free, so anybody can do this. So, and it's nice, cool down here, especially on summer days, a great place to hide out. As you can see in front of me, there's some guided groups going around. This is because when we look to the left here, you can actually enter parts of the basements which is closed unless you buy a ticket and take a tour in there. Something which I would definitely recommend. We're not going to do it now because there's simply too much people going around, but it's definitely worthwhile to see all this part. It's some of the best preserved things from that time in history in total in the whole Europe, so it's definitely worthwhile having a look at it. As a Split, living in Split, the area is in the winter used for exhibitions. For instance, we have a yearly wine festival here. We used to have a flower festival and other kinds of events. So it's not only a historical place used for showing to tourists, also the citizens of Split benefits from it. Good, let's go. And as you remember from the photo we looked at before, the seaside entrance was actually water. So as the palace was built, there was water in here, and the history goes that basically the emperor's boat would be able to sail in here, so he didn't have to hassle with getting on the boat when he wanted to take a trip around. And maybe 3-4 years back, this was filled with souvenir shops. All along, you could buy all kinds of stuff, but because Split is spending more and more resources in preserving how it used to be to really keep the palace, lots of these things they have basically canceled and said, you know, this destroys the culture part of it, so we basically take these things away. So as you see here, there's 3 different exits. Which would all take you to some place around in the palace. We're going to take the main entrance. Yeah, you actually have to watch out on these steps, especially if it has been raining a little bit. They get very slippery. Now we are at Peristyle, which you could say is the heart of the palace. And when this was originally built, this was the intention for all the noblemen in the city that they were meeting here. And still today, I would say it's the heart of the city. In the summer months, you have a very interesting event taking place here, where there's opera concerts, usually in July. So all the areas here is full with chairs and a stage, and it's really a fantastic experience. So if you should be in Split at that time of the year, can only recommend to do this. Let's go a little bit down. Yeah, the one we have here is quite interesting. These things, we used to have a lot of them, but there's only 3 left. This one, and there's one headless somewhere around, and then there's one at the Archaeological Museum. They were actually from Egyptian, gifted by some Egyptian emperor, and we have basically managed to keep one of these here. Of course, if you're visiting the Diocletian Palace, one really interesting thing to do is to climb the bell tower behind me, and that's what we are going to do now. This is the highest point you can get within the palace, so you have a great view. You will see you have a great view when we get to the top. Let's go. Thank you. As you can see, it's a bit narrow, so if you're here during the day when it's really busy, it's a bit tricky with people coming down and you going up. And if you're not walking too good, actually there's another stair down. I totally forgot about that. So that makes it at least easier. But if you're not walking too good, it might be a bit challenging going up these stairs. Already now, we have a view on some of the roofs. So, if this was some years back, I can tell you for sure I would not be walking up here, because there used to be an old staircase. Didn't look very stable, so if you're kind of not too comfortable with heights or walking up, you would definitely appreciate that it renewed all of this, so now it's super safe walking up here, but that was definitely not the case before. And as I mentioned earlier, the bell tower here was not a part of the original palace. This one was built in the 12th century. So now, up. Wow. Amazing view, amazing.
Good exercise.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, but that's what I said. Now it's actually nice walking up here.
Yeah.
10 years back, it used to be an old staircase. So now with rust and these kind of stuff, so I was really not comfortable going up here. So I was really happy when I saw they started, make it new. Yeah. Because now it's basically really comfortable. Yeah. Out here we have basically ferry port. Ferries coming in and out during the summer. It's really a busy place. Great to see it from up here. And over there we have the marina and the west coast, which was maybe made new some 10-15 years ago, and they did renovate and build some new buildings over there. There used to be a large hotel which was partly rebuilt, and then they stopped, so it was basically half a ruined building which we had there for 10 years. 8-10 years sitting around just looking quite ugly, but now they tore it down and they're gonna build something nice looking over there. So I kind of look forward to this. And up here behind us, I don't know how visible it is on the camera, you see the green peak. That's the Park of Mardian, which we also have a video about this one. Definitely a place worth visiting when you're in Split. You can basically stay up at the platform as long as you want, but in the summer, be mindful, there's a lot of people, so don't spend half of the day up here simply because it's too crowded. But of course, go around, have a view of all the city parts of Split. You can see most parts of Split from here, so it's really a stunning view from up here, so highly recommended. Anyway, let's go down. And all the information about getting tickets and other additional information about visiting the bell tower and Split, we will post on our website, so just check it out. You will see all kinds of interesting information there.
Thank you.
Now I will take you this way around because there's already too much people in the other area of the city. So you manage standing here addressing the people when you're an emperor or even a retired emperor. Must have been pretty awesome, I guess. So when we enter here, this way, this was actually the entrance to the residency, actually where the emperor had his apartment. So that part, his apartment was basically more or less all the length of the palace towards the seaside. This is called the vestibule. Quite impressive. And here in the summer, you often have klapper orchestras standing in here and singing, which is usually four or five, six people. The sound is absolutely amazing. So if you manage to hear this while here, definitely recommend it. I think it's mostly more or less every evening during the summer. And today there's still living around, some claim 3,000, some say less, maybe 2,000 people inside what was the old palace walls. When I moved to Split the first time, this was definitely way more. Lots of the apartment has been renovated and turned into Airbnbs. So, the same basically has happened. There used to be a lot of local shops in lots of the streets in here. Most of this is basically gone. Mainly there's souvenir shops and restaurants, as you will see when we go around. And everything basically looks a bit like a labyrinth. And it also feels like a labyrinth because you keep noticing streets which, I haven't been there for a long time, and there's really lots of them. You can easily get lost. So if you want to eat in an old, traditional Croatian restaurant, this is definitely the place to go, well hidden away inside the palace. You don't see it from the outside and everything, but great food. I've been here several times, so I can definitely recommend it.
Great.
Yeah, and great views. Yeah. One thing which I really like, what had happened over the last many years is lots of the buildings get restored and renovated and restored, but under very strict rules. So if you want to change anything with any building in the old town, you need you need people qualified. Yeah, you need people qualified from the city who would basically supervise what you are doing and to make sure it's made in the right way, which I think is really great to do that, so we are sure that everything is preserved in the best possible way. But still, as you see with this one behind us also, there's lots of building which still needs a helping hand. But every year you see more and more building which have carefully been renovated. And here we have one of my favorite places to go to have a beer, hang out in Split, which is called Ghetto. Of course now all the tables are moved away, but this is really an awesome place to go in the evening. I mean, we can just have a peek. Look, you know how all the walls around here are covered in green. Really a great place when you have tables outside here, a bit of candy lights and stuff. Perfect place. So go here, I highly recommend it. Here in the evening, you also have tables all the way down. This coffee bar or bar is also quite interesting. It actually has a cave inside. But of course, you need to be lucky to actually get the tables inside the cave because it's very popular to sit in there. Lots of people here in the evening. There used to be lots of funny stuff here. I remember many years back there was actually a rakia shop here. And that was a horrible thing because you could buy 1 meter rakia, and that's not something I would recommend to anyone. But really in the evening, go here in the evening, it looks absolutely fantastic here. Really cozy place to sit around. So and normally there's a big part of the old town in this direction, but as we are specifically looking at the palace today, we're going to take this way here. Nice square where you have restaurants, sit here in the evening, have a meal. Definitely very cozy, really nice. And then we have the smallest street in Split. I think also not many other cities have this narrow street, but it is actually a street. And yeah, the narrow street, yeah. And so the good thing is if you do not try to pass here when there's 8 crews from the cruise ship, because then you have to wait a long time. Church, you can go to see also. Yeah, and here's actually the things which was the second one, which is missing the head. So now we are heading down to the central square, but coming from another direction. And now you see we are getting visitors here behind me. There's coming a few Roman guards. They are usually always here at the center. So if you want to have pictures standing next to nowadays Roman guards, then you can definitely do that. So here the church and the bell tower, as I said already before with the bell tower, it was constructed in the 12th century. The church is actually built on top of the mausoleum of Diocletian. And the church, which is called Blessed by the Virgin Mary, and the bell tower together is the Cathedral Svetitouia, which is kind of the Svetitouia is the saint of Split. I don't know how good you see it here, but this is basically the east entrance to the palace, which is called the Silver Gate. As you can see, a large part of the structures is still intact today. Remember before I mentioned how thick the walls was. If you look here, somebody who wanted to attack, had to have some very powerful ammunition or be very patient, I think. And this, what you see here, is some of the remains of one of the protection towers, which was on each of the sides. And basically both to the, as you can see, both to the left and to the right, you still have a large part of the walls intact. And as you can see, they are investing in renovating it. So some of the, let's say, some of the bad stuff which was done by people over the years, they're trying to redo that and basically reinforce the wall so that and make sure it can be preserved for generations to come. One special thing which we are going to do today is that we are going to show you some places where you can actually go up and see the palace, or the old part, or the part of the palace as it looks today from the top. And one of the options is that you book a tour with the museum, and then you basically get up and walk on the old northern wall. So that's what we are going to do in a few minutes. So stay tuned for some photos from up on the town.
So the entrance to this tour is not in this office where we bought the tickets. So right now we're just following the guide. He's gonna lead us to this location where we're gonna climb the walls.
If you've been to Croatia before, you probably heard about the wall in Dubrovnik, but surprise, surprise, there's actually also a wall you can walk on in Split, which we're going to do now. We're going to visit the northern wall of Diocletian Palace. So please follow me. As you can see, here's, some of the wall structure. Probably they were defending themselves against enemies coming from the northern side. So my left side here, most of this is relatively well preserved, whereas of course everything you see to the right with the city, everything has been changed over the year as different rulers over the town. So the foundation here is the palace structure, but everything which is basically above and is visible is changed over the years when the Slavs were here, when the Romans were here, when the Hungarians, so Austrians, so all of them put probably some kind of fingerprint on how the town looks today. So basically, if you are interested in visiting this, this is basically a part of the offers from Museum of City of Split, or Museegrad Split. The way you basically book a tour here is that you call the museum and book a tour. Usually you can book a tour for at least the next day. You can also, if you come early in the morning, probably for the afternoon. The other option is you go to Galeria Vidovic, which is basically close. When you see the cathedral, it's a little bit left to the cathedral, just where the Silver Gate is. You have a Galleria there which opens at 10 o'clock. This is usually also the meeting point if you book this tour, so you can go down there and buy the ticket and reserve a trip for later. You can't just instantly walk in and say, I want to take the next trip. You always need to book it. That's the important message. Oops. Yeah, you need to watch out a little bit when you walk here. So just where we are standing now, below us here is what they call, is the northern gate to the palace, what they call the Golden Gate. So probably this was the most, why it's called the Golden, probably this was the one which had to look the most impressive if there came visitors for the emperor. Another reason why maybe also this one became the most important one is that Diocletian, Roman Emperor, why did he decide to build a palace in Split, Croatia? Well, it might seem a bit strange, but it is actually not, because just maybe 4 or 5 kilometers air distance from here, you have an old Roman city called Salona. At that time in history, it used to be a very big city with about 60,000 inhabitants. So 3 times the size of Pompeii. I'm going to do another video where we will visit Salona. So just check out my website, and then you will know when we have a video ready. But anyway, Diocletian was actually born in Salona, so he's basically building a palace next to his hometown, just by the sea, like anybody would do today if they have the opportunity to do this. Yeah, and what I forgot here, the statue here is one of 3 statues in Croatia of Gregor Ninski, and as you can see, rubbing his foot should bring you luck, prosperous, and various things. And so you always see a lot of people here passing by and rubbing his foot. If there's too many people here, you can go to Vardasteen or you can go to Nien, where the two other statues are. Yeah. I think now we are more or less at the end. So this is of course not as long as the Dubrovnik wall, but still nice that you can actually get up. As I showed you earlier when we were at the Silver Gate, you remember the Silver Gate, they are currently renovating it. And one of the long-term plans is to connect the northern wall here to this part over here of the eastern wall, and then basically if everything goes as one of the ideas, what they would like to do is that you would be able to go all the way down to the southeastern tower, down close to the main promenade. But still, this is plans for the future. First of all, they need to repair and renovate the wall, and then we see if they manage to do this. Before you saw we were filming from up the wall, when we were walking up there. Now we went down to show you how it looks when you enter by the Golden Gate. So let's walk down there. Of course, you have the statue of Gregor Ninski, as I mentioned. We can just pass by and touch its foot to send a bit of luck to all of you. So, oops, here it goes. You see most of them pick that one. Like you saw at the Peristyle, most of the day you have some young men dressed up in the army suits of the Romans. You also have that more or less all of the day here at the Golden Gate entrance, and I think for a small tip you can get a photo together of them. So Golden Gate, as it says basically on the sign up here, Zlatna Vrata. To that side you have several restaurants. Also, if you go in this area, oops, sorry. Now we're gonna continue down here. Now we're gonna see another popular place. I think this is maybe, if not the only, I think it's the only garden inside the palace. Pretty neat one.
Bueno, la cabeza de la esfinge.
Well, as you see, there's lots of crowds, and I can't translate you that. Here you have it's a small tip, you have a coffee bar called D16, makes a fantastic coffee, so if you really want to treat yourself with a nice cup of coffee, this is basically the place to go. We don't have Starbucks and this other stuff, we have real coffee, so this is what you need to try it out. And another tip, if you should need water, there's actually a fountain here, so if you need to fill your water bottle, do it here. The Lion will give you whatever water you need, freshly cold, really good drinking water, so no need to go and buying drinking bottles if you're anyway bringing a bottle with you. Now we are take this way. Down here we have the only synagogue in Split, which is actually right here. As you can see here on the sign, where you have the information. Also in Split, in the forest park Marian, there's a Jewish cemetery, and we're gonna show you parts of that, or where that one is located, and parts of that one when we do in our video about Marian. So now we did the Golden Gate, the Silver Gate, and the Bronze Gate. And as you remember, I showed you in the beginning, the palace has a rectangular shape with 4 entrances, so we are of course missing the last gate, the Iron Gate, so that's the one we're going to enter from now. All this square here, the piazza is not inside the palace, it's just part of the old town, but anyway, a very nice place to hang out, nice restaurants, so definitely something you should see. So if you turn left, what you see up here is basically, that was the Iron Gate, and the place here is called under the Ispodura, or under the clock, and you actually have a clock up there, but all of this was built later. It was not a part of the palace from the original days. And of course we haven't shown you all of the town. There's any street you take down to the left or the right, intertwines, so you can really keep walking around and you will always discover some small street you haven't seen before. One thing you would notice, we actually passed by earlier, there's a museum, but if you notice Game of Thrones, it's a topic which is spoken about or written about a lot here in the old town. The reason for that is, of course, parts of Game of Thrones was filmed here in Split. And later we are in our video about Cleese, you're going to see other parts of Game of Thrones which was also filmed here nearby. So now we're coming back to Peristyle. You remember when we were here a bit earlier this morning, there was no people. Look now, it's a few hours later. So if you like crowds, come in the middle of the day, you will definitely find them, and in the evening it's gonna be even worse. But that's just part of living in a popular city where lots of people want to see this beautiful place. You simply have a lot of people. Now we're gonna go to a little bit more quiet part of the palace. So, and here's a tip, it has nothing to do with the palace or anything like that, but next to Bulgaria, there's There's an ice place. You will see in the evening people would stand 50 or 100 people in line for buying an ice cream. Trust me, I have tested ice cream more than any of the people standing in line over there. I can tell you the best ice cream in Split is here, and there's never a line. Yeah. So don't follow what you read, follow me, because I tested more than the other ones. That's here you need to buy the ice cream. Good. Now we're going to see the last part of the palace here in the corner, where you have here at the beginning, you have some parts of monuments which should be very old, which they dig out. And here you basically have the option to enter the church or the cathedral from here. Let's go up here. You remember at the beginning when we went through the basement, I said you could basically take a tour like you saw several groups it. But there's other ways also to look in the basement. It's basically when you get to this part, you have the option to see some of the parts which they have either completely restored from and dealt with archaeologically, and also parts over there which still needs to be prepared and done in the right way. But of course all of this is a big job, because every time they start digging here, something new appears underneath. The guy from Museum of Split told me that currently they are renovating something in the basement of the City Museum, but as soon as they start digging, they found stuff down there which they now need to deal with archaeologically. So when you plan to do something here in Split, around the palace area, even all the way out to Salona, as soon as you need to go down in the ground, you will end up finding stuff from the Roman time, and all of this nowadays needs to be really documented in detail. I hope it's not us they're coming for. Here on the right you see the Ethnographical Museum. If you recall at the beginning, when we came out at the vestibule, we saw the back side of the museum, or the other side of the museum, and actually the main entrance is here around the corner. Also here you can see they have enforced the wall with new stones on top in the same style or same type of material as it's used in the basement and other places. So it really looks nice once they are finished with restoring a place inside the palace.
Helena.
Maybe just to have a peek out of the window here. This was the view which the emperor had from his apartment at the palace. The balconies, he also had balconies. Now nowadays they are restaurants, so you can actually sit on the balconies here and enjoy some nice food. Now we're going to return back this way. Now we're going to go down to the basement, but now coming from one of the other entrances. Always a good place to go, the basement of the Occasion Palace. If you think it's too warm walking around, the basement always have a really great temperature. Now we are back. Now we are back at Arriva and Split. You see everything here. Anyway, this concludes our video from today. Thank you for following our channel. We will of course also post all information about Split Palace and what you need to know on our website. So please visit www.mortensmalby.com to see more information. Thank you everyone. Until the next one.